Imagine the year is 1948. World War II has ended, but a new, quieter war is brewing. In the heart of a divided Germany lies the city of Berlin, itself split into 4 sectors controlled by the victorious powers: the United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. The city is an island of Western influence deep inside Soviet-controlled East Germany. This precarious situation is about to ignite one of the first major crises of the Cold War. Soviet leader Joseph Stalin wants complete control over Berlin. He sees the prosperous, democratic Western sectors as a thorn in his side, a beacon of a different world that undermines his authority in Eastern Europe. On June 24, 1948, Stalin makes his move. He orders all rail, road, and canal access to West Berlin to be cut off. The city's 2.5 million residents are suddenly isolated, trapped without access to food, fuel, or supplies. Stalin's plan is simple and brutal: starve West Berlin into submission. He believes the Western powers will have no choice but to abandon the city, handing him a massive political victory. The situation looks grim. The Western allies face a terrible choice. They could try to force their way through the blockade on the ground, but this would almost certainly lead to armed conflict and potentially a new world war. The alternative seems just as bleak: abandon the people of West Berlin to Soviet rule. This would be a devastating blow to the credibility of the West and the idea of freedom. Number one, it would signal that they were unwilling to stand up to Soviet expansion. General Lucius D. Clay, the American military governor in Germany, famously declared, "When Berlin falls, West Germany will be next." The stakes could not be higher. The world watches, holding its breath, wondering what will happen next. But then, a third option emerges, a plan so audacious and seemingly impossible that many thought it was bound to fail. The idea was to supply the entire city of West Berlin, with all its millions of people, completely by air. This had never been done before on such a scale. Supplying a major metropolitan area with everything from flour and potatoes to coal and medicine, using only airplanes, seemed like a logistical fantasy. Initial calculations were daunting. Experts estimated that the city needed a minimum of 4,500 tons of supplies every single day just to survive. This included food for the people and coal to power the city's electricity plants. The largest cargo planes available at the time, the American C-47 Skytrains, could only carry about 3 tons each. This meant thousands of flights would be needed every single day, landing and taking off in a relentless, non-stop cycle. Despite the monumental challenge, the decision was made. The West would not abandon Berlin. Operation Vittles, as the Americans called it, was greenlit. The British launched their own parallel effort, Operation Plainfare. The Berlin Airlift had begun. On June 26, 1948, just 2 days after the blockade started, the first American planes touched down at Tempelhof Airport in West Berlin. The initial days were chaotic and difficult. Pilots were flying in unfamiliar, crowded air corridors under immense pressure. Weather was often poor, with thick fog and low clouds making landings treacherous. The airfields in Berlin were not designed for such heavy, constant traffic. The number of flights was far below what was needed. In the first week, the airlift delivered less than 100 tons a day, a fraction of the required minimum. Many observers, including some within the Western governments, predicted failure. Stalin was confident his blockade would work. He believed the airlift was a temporary, desperate measure that could not possibly be sustained, especially as the harsh German winter approached. But he underestimated the resolve of the pilots and the ingenuity of the planners. General William H. Tunner, a master of logistics, who had organized a similar, smaller airlift over the Himalayas during the war, was brought in to command the operation. Tunner implemented a system of clockwork precision. He treated the air corridors to Berlin like a one-way street in the sky. Every aspect of the operation was standardized and optimized for maximum efficiency. Planes were scheduled to take off every 3 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Pilots had a strict flight plan and a very short window to land in Berlin. If a pilot missed their landing approach, they were not allowed to circle around. Instead, they had to fly all the way back to their base in West Germany with their cargo and try again later. This rule was harsh but necessary to prevent disastrous mid-air collisions in the crowded airspace. Maintenance crews on the ground worked tirelessly. They serviced and refueled planes in record time, often in just a few minutes before sending them back into the sky. The entire operation became a beautifully synchronized aerial ballet. The Berliners themselves played a crucial role. Thousands of local workers, many of them women, helped to unload the planes and build a new, larger runway at Tegel Airport, completing the massive construction project in just 90 days. Their spirit was unbreakable. Despite the shortages and the constant uncertainty, they refused to give in. They saw the planes in the sky, not just as a source of supplies, but as a symbol of hope and solidarity. One of the most touching stories of the airlift involves an American pilot named Gail Halvorson. He noticed children gathered by the airport fences watching the planes land. Wanting to do something nice for them, he promised he would drop candy from his plane the next day. He told them to watch for a plane that wiggled its wings. Keeping his promise, Halvorson and his co-pilot tied handkerchiefs into tiny parachutes and attached small packages of chocolate and chewing gum. As they flew over, they wiggled the plane's wings and dropped the candy to the delighted children below. Word spread quickly, and soon other pilots joined in. The Candy Bomber, or Uncle Wigglewings, as Halvorson became known, started a movement called Operation Little Vittles. Donations of candy poured in from people back in America. This small act of kindness had a huge impact on morale. It showed the people of Berlin that the world had not forgotten them, that people cared about them not just as a political problem, but as human beings. It became a powerful symbol of the airlift's humanitarian mission. As the months wore on, the airlift became more and more efficient. New, larger planes like the C-5 for Skymaster, which could carry 10 tons of cargo, were brought into service. The daily tonnage of supplies steadily increased. By the spring of 1949, the airlift was a stunning success. On a single day in April, known as the Easter Parade, the combined fleet of Allied planes delivered a record-breaking 12,941 tons of supplies in a 24-hour period. That's one plane landing in Berlin almost every minute. The sheer scale of the operation was astounding. Scientific analysis of the logistics reveals an incredible feat of coordination. The airlift delivered over 2.3 million tons of cargo on more than 278,000 flights in total. A surprising fact is that 2/3 of the cargo delivered was coal. This highlights the importance of energy. Without coal to power the city's generators, Berlin would have plunged into darkness and cold, making life unbearable. Stalin's plan had completely backfired. The blockade was not weakening West Berlin. It was strengthening the bond between the Berliners and the Western Allies. The airlift had become a massive public relations victory for the West and a humiliating defeat for the Soviet Union. The world saw the democratic nations working together to defeat a besieged city, while the Soviets were seen as cruel aggressors. The determination and success of the airlift demonstrated the West's commitment to defending freedom in a way that words never could. Finally, on May 12, 1949, after nearly 11 months, Stalin admitted defeat. He lifted the blockade. The roads, rails, and canals to West Berlin were reopened. The city was free. The Berlin airlift was a pivotal moment in the Cold War. It was a victory achieved not with weapons, but with cargo planes, determination, and an unwavering belief in human dignity. It set the precedent that the West would stand firm against Soviet pressure. The crisis also spurred the creation of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, a military alliance formed to provide collective security against Soviet aggression. The legacy of the airlift is one of courage, ingenuity, and the triumph of hope over oppression. The sound of airplanes over Berlin, once a sound of fear during the war, had become a sound of freedom and survival. It was a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, humanity's best qualities can shine through. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please consider subscribing to Historical Repo for more stories that shaped our world.